Kent Lyle's little patch of paradise, a cottage on the shores of Sylvan Lake. His family built it in the 1940s, a summer getaway in Alberta's backwoods that has become his home year-round. But the lakeshore wilderness that drew his father here more than 50 years ago is becoming more and more crowded, and now Lyle fears this could soon be paradise lost.
We're not trying to just keep people out. What we're trying to do is make sure the lake survives.
What's got him worried is what some developers have in mind for a big chunk of forest on that side of the lake. They want to build close to 500 new houses. Lyle's trying to stop them. He's become caught up in a debate mired in political intrigue, deep suspicion, and big money, all over a lake that some experts warn is on the edge of environmental ruin. Experts like world-renowned scientist David Schindler.
Anybody who thinks that lake will withstand more cottage development without suffering water quality problems is a damn fool.
I'm not an environmentalist. I'm just an ordinary citizen that lives on the lake that cares about it.
That's what everybody says.
Ray Prinz doesn't think much of Kent Lyle's concern. He thinks Lyle just wants paradise all to himself. And he doesn't think much of David Schindler's warning either. He calls Schindler Chicken Little. Prinz is the reeve of Lacombe County, where the developers want to build those houses, and he sees no reason to stop.
There is a need to find room for people to live. Municipal authorities...
Does it have to be on a lake, though?
It has to be, I guess, where people want to live. You can't tell them to go somewhere where they don't want to be.
And people want to live on Sylvan Lake. The original village itself is on the verge of becoming a city of 10,000. In the summer, it draws thousands more, a bustling tourist oasis in the heart of prairie Alberta.
We used to have loons and more ducks and baby ducks, and there's a big change already.
Change in what way?
Well, we don't see loons kind of pass through. They don't stay here. And if you hear a couple of those boats without any mufflers on them, the open stack boats go by, I wouldn't stick around if I was a loon either.
Homes by the lake now go for $500,000, and demand is strong, but not in Lacombe County. Even though it controls the biggest strip of lakefront, it has been virtually shut out of the lucrative lakefront housing market. That's because over the years it was restricted by an independent regional planning commission that ruled most of the lake shoreline. Housing was allowed in the 5 small summer villages and the town of Sylvan Lake, where most lakefront lots were already gobbled up. But the Lacombe County lakefront was off-limits, untouched. That is, until 1995, the Klein government disbanded all regional planning commissions. Suddenly, the shackles were off. Lacombe County was free to make its own rules. David Schindler calls it a disaster in the making. This photograph of his now world-famous experiment 30 years ago shows what can happen. A lake cut in two, one side pristine, the other polluted by humans. Schindler's experiment uncovered what was ruining healthy lakes around the world. The same threat, he says, Sylvan Lake now faces.
You can read the sad history of every mesotrophic lake in the United States which has undergone the sort of development that these turkeys are proposing for Sylvan Lake. It isn't going to be any different. I've never known a case that has been any different. We have 50 years of science to know what not to do. And it's damn time that developers and city councils learn to use it, not turn every lake in the country into a cesspool.
A disaster that did dawn on the lakefront governments when the Regional Planning Commission disappeared. They saw the potential for a free-for-all, so they met for months to draft new laws to protect the lake. But then, at the last minute, in 2000, Lacombe County backed out. There would be no new laws, just guidelines.
The plan that was in existence prior to 2000 shut out the developers. That's why there was no development happening. That's why some of these lots today are worth more than $400,000. There's a huge demand for these lots.
And that's what worries Lyle's group, the Sylvan Lake Stewardship Society. It wants an environmental assessment done on the entire lake before the boom begins.
The harm is that they may give approval to some of the bigger ones that are on the table right now, and find out 2 months later that, whoops, that was a mistake. We didn't know that. We should change that, but it's too late.
Lacombe and the other municipalities around the lake have agreed to the study, but Prinz says he won't wait for it.
The other 7 municipalities have not indicated that they're going to stop development to wait for a study.
Land in those municipalities has already been zoned for housing for, in some cases, decades. Sylvan Lake town is putting up houses at a rate of 200 a year. So Prinz says he won't stop developers from getting ready to build in Lacombe County. One of those developers is a former Lacombe County councillor, Frank Wilson, the same councillor who was the county's point man in the power-sharing talks. After the talks failed, he bought a big parcel of lakefront county land. His construction company now has tentative approval for a 19-acreage subdivision worth about $4 million. But he's not the only one in the debate who stands to make money. A plot of land down from Kent Lyle's place just sold for $475,000. His brother sold it, and right beside it, Kent himself has 2 lots for sale, already zoned and ready for someone to build a lakeside cottage. Prinz thinks the call for a development freeze until a cumulative environmental assessment is done, a CEA, is just a ploy to keep land prices high.
That's right. It could be too late already. But this individual is not going to put his own development on hold to wait for the CEA either. So I think there's double talk there, and I'm just going to leave it at that. We're not going to do it unless everybody does it. And if nobody else shuts down, we're not shutting down.
It's the tragedy of the commons.
Schindler calls it all petty politics that could, in the end, ruin the lake for everyone.
You can remember me 30 years from now when you come whining around with your algal blooms and all the other problems and expect some scientists to help you with them. It isn't going to happen. We don't know the cure for these problems.
No one, including Schindler, knows for sure just how much more development Sylvan Lake can take. Lacombe County officials insist they have some tough environmental restrictions in mind to protect it. Restrictions they're now negotiating with the developers. But one thing is certain, a lot more development is coming, and no one is prepared to stop. Grant Julinas, CBC News, Sylvan Lake.